All right, everybody, let's jump right in. Welcome into Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends here at Mile High Sports and FanDuel. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn, at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network. And I am here. I am ready to discuss the Denver Nuggets, who continue to find improbable ways to win, like last night, where they scrap, they fight, they claw against one of the toughest superstars to do that against in Giannis Antetokounmpo. Nuggets defeat the Milwaukee Bucks, final score 108-104. Lots of awesome performances across the board, lots of just solid performances across the board, some even like negative performances across the board. Not everybody played well, not everybody had the game of their lives, but ultimately, all you can ask for in this case is how you can find ways to win. What is it going to take, especially if Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray are out? What is it going to do? What is it going to take to be able to just dig deep and find that extra reserve of energy in this particular case? It's been really impressive to see Denver rise to the occasion in that regard. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about why. We're going to talk about the catalysts. And then in the second segment, we're going to go over how I think the Western Conference has really missed out on an opportunity here to see the Nuggets slip. There's obviously still time for that. There's plenty of games left to play without Nikola Jokic, but ultimately it does feel like there's some FOMO here from the Western Conference because the Nuggets have played all Eastern Conference teams over the course of these last 7 games, and I do think that matters. So without further ado, let's get into it. The Nuggets defeated the Bucks last night in a very scrappy win, 108-104. And the biggest factors for like just having to scrap is that you're no Nikola Jokic, as everybody knows, no Cam Johnson, no Jonas Valanciunas. Jamal Murray was out with sickness. He's still ill. The ankle sprain that he's got going on, like, yes, there is a factor of maintenance there, but mostly it's because he's sick. But then Christian Braun also sat. Like, technically, I guess he was active based off of some of the box score stuff, but like, he wasn't really like he was in street clothes the entire time. He was not about to play. And it was very interesting to see that pop up. And let's actually talk about that now at the top. I'm a little bit concerned about Christian's ankle at this point. It does seem like there has been some slippage there in terms of, okay, Denver is now in a very uncomfortable place, like where he's not all the way back, despite the fact that he spent a lot of time out. Denver may have brought him back a little bit too soon, and he clearly wasn't right when they brought him back. I mean, anybody could watch what was going on with Christian. And so over the course of yesterday, where David Adelman and the training staff and Christian Braun, they all came together and figured, okay, it's not right, it's not good, let's sit. And it seems like this is going to be a day-to-day thing that they're going to have to deal with. So you add that to the list of other guys that Denver is missing, and you don't expect Jamal Murray to be out for an extensively long time. But let's say he's back. You're still without Jokic, Christian Braun, Cam Johnson, and Jonas Valanciunas in that stretch. And so Denver, of course, has to dig deep. Like, these are their offensive drivers. I was talking about this with Matt last night at the game, that Denver's like the fact that they are scoring the way that they are with the offensive rating that they had last night. Like, it wasn't perfect, obviously. They went through it and were flawed at various points, but they're at one point were having a 125 offensive rating, despite the fact that they don't have the best player in the world, an all-star, one of the leading drivers for the bench positivity over in Cam Johnson when he was staggering, and then Jonas Valanciunas, who's just a guy that they could dump the ball into, was extremely productive. So they're missing all of these guys. These are their options. Like, these are their first, second, third, fourth options in a lot of these cases. And so having somebody to step up in the manner that both Aaron Gordon and Tim Hardaway Jr. stepped up last night was super, super impressive. Aaron Gordon, I think, deserves the lion's share of the credit for last night's game. Obviously, team effort and all that. I understand. Aaron Gordon was a minus 11 last night. He wasn't perfect. There were some plays that he made or some plays that he didn't make. Like Giannis Antetokounmpo, who he was primarily matched up with, still had a great game. Like you can point to what Giannis was doing, saying, I mean, what did Aaron really do to stop him? Well, he didn't stop him, but like in a game where Giannis was 31 points on 17 shots, 8 rebounds, 11 assists, Aaron Gordon had 23 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists on 16 shots and made some threes, got to the free throw line and was just as effective at it as Giannis in a lot of ways, and had 0 turnovers during that process while bringing the ball up the floor in the fourth quarter. It's just a lot of burden, especially when Aaron was really starting at center last night. Now, I think it may be argued that Spencer Jones started at center, but Aaron was guarding Giannis, who does the center things for the Bucks. Miles Turner really just kind of stands out there on the perimeter and spaces the floor. He might set the occasional screen, but he's going to pick and pop. He's not going to pick and roll. And he's not an interior defender, like a physical guy in the way that Giannis is. So like, I kind of think of their roles like Giannis is really the center and Miles Turner is really the power forward in that case. And Aaron Gordon was guarding Giannis for a lot of that time, matching his minutes and just having to compete with that. And so I respect Aaron Gordon and the way that he's kind of stepped this thing up over the course of this time. He looked tired at the end of last night's game. I won't lie. Like there's a very tough burden. Aaron played 32 minutes, probably should have played closer to 25 or 28 or somewhere around there. David Adelman said post-game that he blew through that minutes restriction. And like, obviously that was a really tough thing, but you had to get Aaron back in the game if you wanted to kind of stabilize and make sure that Giannis wasn't going to go off in different situations. But I just really appreciate the manner in which Aaron played. Did a lot of good things defensively, did a lot of good things offensively, was the leading driver for Denver at various points, and just very, very impressed with how he handled himself. Also very impressed, obviously, with Tim Hardaway Jr. coming off of the bench. He is a guy that Denver has truly needed in a lot of these games just to take some pressure off of the rest of the team. And the way that he's been able to do that is, you know, that when Tim has an inch of space and he comes off of a pin down and like is looking to rise and fire, he's going to do it. And it has been really impressive watching Tim shoot pretty efficiently for the Nuggets this season. He might go back to shooting a lower percentage, but I don't really see why. Like the kinds of shots that he's hitting are tough, but it's his skill. Like that's what he does. And how he has been handling himself, the Nuggets have been setting him up extremely well. They've been running a lot of offense for him to be able to get some of these shots, especially out of timeouts. And it's just been really nice to see Denver be able to have a shooter that's willing to shoot and space the floor and give them some 3-point volume. Like Denver, for like last year, the biggest factor that was working against the Nuggets from an offensive perspective was that they were unwilling or unable to space the floor from 3 on a consistent basis, despite the fact that they had Michael Porter Jr., that they had Jamal Murray, that they had some other guys like Julian Strawther's getting up shots from the perimeter. Jokic was just like lacing them from 3 last year and taking a bunch of shots as a result. This year, the Nuggets, while they're not like crazy from 3, they're 22nd in the NBA in 3-point attempts, which is fine. You just can't be 30th. You just can't be last. And Denver, like they shoot the ball so well from 3. They're 40%. They are like the best team in the NBA from an efficiency standpoint. Why not take more, man? Like, why not take more? And so having a guy like Tim Hardaway that helps unlock that for them and helps just like add that dimension to the team's game, especially when other guys are so good at driving or so like, think about Peyton Watson and what he's been able to do as a driver over the course of these last 7 games without Jokic. Like he's getting into the paint on a consistent basis And when he's sharing the floor with Tim Hardaway Jr., like you got to worry about Peyton getting into the paint. You got to worry about Tim at the three from all times. So it's just been a good balance. And having somebody like that, like he just sets the example. He made a really good play in like defensive transition, getting the ball and stealing the ball from Giannis on a fast break, cut him off before Giannis could really go anywhere. And that was a huge play, a huge swing that the Nuggets had because they're able to then waste some clock. Giannis wasn't able to get a free 2 points or 3 points had he gotten fouled in an and one, which very likely in that situation. And like Tim's just making smart plays. He's not perfect on the defensive end. I often find that he's the guy that like isn't closing out at the right levels for what the Nuggets are doing on the perimeter, and he has to kind of conserve some energy. I don't blame him because he played 35 minutes off the bench last night. That is a lot of bench minutes. So credit to him for doing exactly what he needed to do. A plus 27 in a game the Nuggets won by 4 points. Like they needed Tim Hardaway Jr. and he stepped up in a big, big fashion. Couple of other guys that you obviously have to be very impressed with. Jalen, Pickett, and Zeke Nnaji. I'll also throw Peyton Watson into that mix. This game from Peyton wasn't exactly like sterling in terms of, oh yeah, like he was super efficient with the basketball in his hands. He was like, he didn't get to 20 points for the first time in like 8 games, 7 games, whatever. But like those are details. And the larger reality with Peyton Watson, like 19, 8, and 6 with 2 blocks and was a +2 in 39 minutes and shot 4 of 6 from 3. I don't really bat an eye at that stat line anymore with him, which shows the kind of growth that he has had, that like he can have that kind of stat line. He can be that productive. There are some things that I was a little bit more focused on with him. The driving to the rim. He was 3 of 13 inside the arc. And when he wasn't getting all the way to the rim, he was having to settle for some of these pull-ups. They're tough. They're tough shots, and he had been hitting them, and then he was missing them last night. Made some bad decisions, things like that. But like the overall baseline for Peyton was here. Now it's just here. It's just higher than it's been before. And it's really cool to see him sort of establish that. But I didn't have a baseline for Zeke Nnaji. I didn't have a baseline for Jalen Pickett coming into the season. I was like, okay, we'll see what happens with these guys. We'll see what happens with Denver's rotation. I remember going over Denver's rotation in the preseason, thinking, okay, well, I would guess that Deron Holmes and Zeke Nnaji are probably going to combine for like the 10th or 11th spot in the rotation, and then Jalen Pickett will be behind them. I didn't expect Spencer Jones to step in, so that caught me by surprise. But Denver has done such a great job of getting everything out of guys that weren't expecting to play. Like even Hunter Tyson, I had him as the last place, 14th in the rotation, and he started the game, wasn't very good, but like getting 13 minutes out of him in a situation like this is not nothing. Julian Strawther, I think, is the that's the one that I think everybody has some concerns with right now, because you expected more and it has not manifested. But with Zeke and Jalen, like Zeke Nnaji's been a revelation over the course of this past week. This stat line is unbelievable. 28 minutes, 14 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and was a +22 in that stretch. Just 1 turnover as well. And like that's a big deal because I remember like thinking about it at the beginning of the year, first 10, 15 games or so, Zeke Nnaji could not stop turning the ball over. And the Nuggets were turning the ball over at a very high rate when he was on the floor, in part because he was not confident. He didn't know exactly where he was supposed to be, how he was supposed to impact things, and was pretty uncomfortable. But he has turned that around in a massive, massive way and is just playing great basketball at backup center. Again, who could have foreseen that this was a possibility? Me, obviously. Zeke has had to evolve and just figure it out as the center. That's the way you have to do it. It is a requirement Yes, there might be some ways where you could play power forward, but the overall like involvement that he can have as a roller, as a defender, as somebody who can impact the game is just going to be higher at center. He's not a sniper from three. Like he's going to have those shots occasionally, but you don't want him like going off the dribble on a consistent basis. He can, and as he showed in the Philly game, like sometimes he can make some amazing plays, but like grabbing 10 rebounds, having 2 steals and 2 blocks, passing out of the pick and roll and having 3 assists, those are all things that he can do. And like it was very clear that he could do that. And you can only really do that at center. You're not going to do that at power forward, just especially with the way that the Nuggets offense is designed around their centers being fulcrums. So he's learning. In his 6th series, finally figured some stuff out. Jalen Pickett has figured some stuff out as well. And just like it wasn't a crazy stat line from last night: 13 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. Only 1 turnover as well in 37 minutes is a really big deal. The Nuggets had 7 individual turnovers, 19 turnovers in the game last night. And that's a huge deal where you just have to treat possessions as valuably as you possibly can. And the way he's been able to do that, like Pickett values the possession. And that's what the book was out on him as a college player and as a prospect, and he has translated that in a big deal. But he's finally starting to balance like actually being aggressive with caring for the basketball, and he's seeing the floor extremely well, making a lot of plays. Some of the rebound that he grabbed and fought over Miles Turner was great, and then set up Tim Hardaway for a wide open 3. And there's a big play, is a big deal. And so having another guy like 37 minutes for Jalen Pickett. And like they needed him on the floor. I know he was a -9, but like they needed him out there just to kind of stabilize some things every now and then. So credit to him. Really good stuff. I have loved the way that Pickett and Zeke have played. Like all you can ask for is just go 100%, do your job, and don't be overwhelmed by the moment. Just play as free as you possibly can. And that doesn't mean like playing loose with the ball. It doesn't mean like you can make unlimited mistakes. Like there's a certain baseline that you have to adhere to, but trying to execute the game plan as much as you possibly can. I mean, Zeke blocked Giannis last night in a very crazy way, like kind of reaching over the top of him from behind and blocking the ball while Giannis was about to go up for a massive dunk. Pickett step up threes and like off the dribble threes in Miles Turner's face because Zeke Nnaji had a really smart like reset on a screen, and Jalen Pickett late shot clock just generates a 3 and has been stepping up as a shooter. Like he just looks really good at that. And finding that confidence for both of those guys has been really, really big. So credit to them, credit to the Nuggets for instilling that confidence and making sure to not like drive it back into submission. It was really, really impressive. And so just like you're going above and beyond in some ways. Like the block on Giannis was obviously an above and beyond thing for Zeke Nnaji. You're not expecting that to happen. He's been a pretty good rim protector. And with rim protection, eventually comes some blocks. So credit to him and credit to the Nuggets for figuring out a way. They keep finding ways, and the Western Conference is very upset about it. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Western Conference playoff picture and what the Nuggets have accomplished and how the other Western Conference teams are going to be very frustrated. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. This podcast is brought to you by Delete Me. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone feel vulnerable. Data brokers, they profit off of your data. It's a commodity. Anyone on the web can buy your private details. This can lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, and harassment. Have you ever been the victim of identity theft, harassment, doxing? If you haven't, you probably know someone who has. Delete Me can help. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to deleteme.com/hit. and use promo code HIT at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/HIT and enter code HIT at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/HIT, code HIT. All right. We are back. Pickaxe and Roll. Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, folks. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. Let's talk about the West. Let's talk about, I wanted to make sure to do a check-in here because one of the big concerns that the Nuggets and fans would, of course, have without Jokic is that you lose ground in the West. You're in a situation where I think Denver was either second or third in the West when Jokic went down on December 29th. And the immediate response that you have is, okay, how far are they dropping? I'm looking at the standings, trying to game plan. Okay, how many wins can Denver get? What is everybody else going to do? Well, if everybody else keeps up their current pace, then you start to see, okay, is Denver actually going to fall into the play-in? There's a lot of teams that are very capable, that have been doing a lot of things and been very impressive from a wins perspective up until that point. And then January has happened, and I was not expecting Denver to maintain their spot. Looking at the Western Conference standings as they are right now, OKC is 33-7. They've been unbelievable. They have won 3 in a row. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games. They're going to be the 1 seed. It's just a matter of how many games they're going to win by and how many games up they are going to be. They've already established a lead on the second place San Antonio Spurs in the loss column by 5. San Antonio has jumped into second place. They are a game ahead of Denver. San Antonio's 27-12, but they're only 5-5 in their last 10 games. Denver is also 5-5 in their last 10 games. They haven't been perfect, especially they won that game on Christmas, but then they lost a couple in Orlando and then in Miami. Jokic played in both of those games. Obviously didn't play in the second half of the Miami game, but Denver kind of established, all right, it's got some issues here. But then they've gone 4-3 since that point and have really found a way to survive. They are 26-13 in these games, on the season. And that pace is still very much in line for about 55 wins. And Denver had already been in a pretty uncomfortable place from that perspective, but they've lost some games, a couple of the Dallas games I know are very bothersome to people. Those were with Nikola Jokic. Golden State on opening night, Portland, few games, and now Portland's making a little bit of a run. They're 7-3 in their last 10. And so it does feel like maybe that's not the worst loss, but it's not a great loss either. And so Denver has plenty of those. The Chicago loss, for example, is one that I'll think about, where they were on the second night of a back-to-back after playing in overtime, and Denver just let go of the rope. So Denver hasn't been perfect, even before Jokic went down. And so you kind of think about it, okay, well, Denver could have been in the play-in at this point. And there's still time. I want to point that out. But you look at some of these other teams, on top of San Antonio being 5-5 in their last 10 games, Minnesota 6-4 in their last 10 games. They've had some inexplicable losses. Now they've had some great wins. And the good thing is that some of these teams are playing each other. So you can't have both of them win at the same time. Minnesota 6-4 in the last 10. They are just behind Denver, a half game back. They have 1 extra loss. The Lakers 23-13. They have not played as many games as the Nuggets, but they have the same number of losses. So they are behind Denver. They've been bailed out. The Lakers have. They have not played that many games, despite the fact that Austin Reeves has been out for a chunk of time. LeBron was out at the beginning of the year. Luka has been good, not great, I would say. Lakers fans seem to want to campaign for him for MVP. He is not the MVP. Shea is currently the MVP unless Jokic can get back in time to challenge for that. Lakers are 4-6 in their last 10 games. The Suns are the only team that has seemingly really taken advantage of this stretch. They are 8-2 in their last 10 games and have jumped ahead of the Houston Rockets, who are 22-14 and have fallen into the play-in because they've lost 3 in a row, including, did they lose to Utah? They lost to Sacramento last night. I know they lost to Portland. Like, these are not good losses for them. Like, Sacramento's not even a team that I have included in this screenshot, and for good reason. But Utah's out of there. New Orleans is out of there. I'm showing Dallas at the bottom of the screenshot because they're 3-7 in their last 10 games. They've dropped down to 12th place. They are not a factor. Sitting down there at 15-23, but having won 8 of their last 10 is the LA Clippers, who have made a lot of progress. They continue to be a team that will rise up these ranks, whether they can rise like through the play-in morass and get into the top 6. That's probably a far cry. Like, they're currently 8 games back, or 8 losses back, excuse me, of the Phoenix Suns, who are in 6th place. So it's going to be tough for the Clippers to kind of get out of that. But anyway, what I'm trying to express here from a Nuggets perspective is that the Nuggets could have been, like, hypothetically, you go 1-6 without Nikola Jokic. Nobody bats an eye. 0 people. 1-6 without Nikola Jokic, and you are 23-16. If the Nuggets were 23-16, they would be in the play-in right now. Straight up. I think that math works out. Maybe Houston would be slightly behind them and they'd be in 6th place, but they'd be flirting with it. They would be very, very close to dropping into that play-in race. And then Denver still got another potentially couple weeks without Nikola Jokic. And there's plenty of risk for Denver to still drop. I'm not trying to say that they can't. But one of the good things about Denver's schedule, like, they've played some weaker teams in this stretch. They've played all Eastern Conference teams. And what's funny is that, like, a lot of those teams are in the play-in race or the playoff race in the Eastern Conference, but that's different. Like, I continue to maintain that the West is just better and that they beat up on each other. And so that's why some of the records are a little bit lower. But overall, the Western Conference is just a better conference than the Eastern Conference. And anybody that is arguing against that is just, it's smoke in the wind. But Denver has gotten to play the Eastern Conference. They have not had to go up against the rest of the West during this stretch. And if you were a Western Conference playoff team right now, obviously, if it was OKC or San Antonio or Minnesota or the Lakers or the Suns or the Rockets or the Warriors or whoever, like the Clippers would be a great example of this. You would be trying to take advantage of the time where Jokic is out, where Murray is sick, where everybody is just like in a very difficult place. But the Eastern Conference doesn't care. They don't give a darn where Denver's at in their season. They're not trying to compete with Denver and for playoff positioning. They're just trying to get through their schedules. And so that's why you've seen some of these letdown effects in the Eastern Conference, I think. It's why you've seen Denver be able to take some of these teams by surprise. They have absolutely taken advantage of this stretch and just fought through it. Now, it's going to get a little bit tougher. Denver's mostly done with this Eastern Conference stretch. If we go and look at the rest of the schedule that the Nuggets are facing here, I will screenshot this and put it up on the screen so that people can see what I am looking at. I'm going to screenshot the rest of January because I think that Jokic will be back by the end of January. We'll put this up right now. Sorry for the delay. Denver just got done beating Milwaukee on January 11th. Over the course of the next 11 games, because Jokic should be back towards the tail end of that, I would guess. They play New Orleans, Dallas, Washington and Charlotte, the Lakers, Washington again, Milwaukee, Memphis, Detroit, Brooklyn, and then the Clippers. So as I'm even saying this, like, Denver is still in a really good position based off of what their schedule has been during this stretch. I thought that Denver would be losing more of these games. And again, they still could. There's nothing holding them back from like resting some guys, dropping some clutch games, being in an uncomfortable position. But like I have to start giving them the benefit of the doubt here. They're 4-3 without Jokic. They have done a really good job. And who knows, maybe they still do it. But like they're more liable, I think, to lose to a team like the Pelicans, who's in 15th place in the Western Conference. Like they're more liable to lose to Dallas. But like they know that they have to play hard if it's just a matter of maintaining that energy the entire time. But like the only teams that Denver's competing with for potential playoff position in a Western Conference playoff field are the two LA teams in this stretch. Again, let me read it out for people. Pelicans, Mavericks, they're out. Wizards, Hornets, Lakers, okay, that's one. Wizards, again, Bucks, Grizzlies, Pistons, Nets, Clippers. Okay, so 2 out of 12. Am I doing my math here? I'm probably 2 out of 11. I'm looking at it now. 2 out of their 11 games are against a potential playoff opponent in the West. So Denver has gotten a little bit bailed out in terms of the timing of this Jokic injury. And they've also been dealing with this sickness at a pretty reasonable time too, where a lot of these teams are just trying to get through January. They're not trying to think about, oh, we got to take advantage of Jokic and the Nuggets being like so injured and bereft and like sick and things like that. They're not thinking that way. They're thinking about themselves, which is how a lot of these teams feel like. So I don't know. It's been really impressive. I'm not going to make any predictions on how Denver finishes the rest of this stretch, but I did just want to note that, like, look, if Jokic comes back in 2 weeks, which I think is reasonable, then Denver's got a chance to be okay without him. They may go 0-6 from now to then. I don't think they will, though, based off of what we've seen over the course of these last couple of weeks. So you got to give a tremendous amount of credit to the Nuggets. They've stepped up in a major way, and they're still alive for, as Fred Goodman says here, 40-20, still alive for that. 26-13 translates to 40-20. They could potentially still meet that criteria. I don't think that they will, but like, and Rugged Land says here, my guess is 4-7 in the next 11. Not terrible. Like, I kind of agree. Like, I don't think that they're going to go 4-7. I actually think they might go 5-6 or 6-5, based off of what I'm looking at. But like, even if they did go 4-7, because they've already gone 4-3, if you say that you go 8-10, and then Nikola Jokic comes back at the first game of February, like, which is against OKC, I doubt that he'd want to wait that long, but who knows? If you go 8-10 without Nikola Jokic, like, okay. I think everybody and their mother would have taken that. I think everybody thought that Denver was cooked from a standing standpoint. And so being able to survive has been really, really impressive. And it puts Denver in a really good position from a playoff standpoint. I mean, I'm looking at the FanDuel odds right now here. OKC is still the favorite at plus 115. Denver's plus 800 by themselves. There's nobody else that's even close from a standings or from an odds perspective. San Antonio's plus 1,200. New York is plus 1,200. Houston's plus 1,300. Boston somehow scraped up there to plus 1,800 if Tatum were to magically come back. And he might. But like, OKC right now is by themselves in terms of the odds. But Denver is the only team that anybody seems to have any faith could actually compete with them, could actually take them down. And like, obviously there's some built-in factor that Denver is still vulnerable. There's still some things that they have to take care of. But like, you got to feel pretty good about where the Nuggets are at. It's not perfect. Nobody's expecting it to be. But the fact that the West hasn't like these teams, because we've seen this before, right? I want to put this back up on the screen. We've seen this before. That's not the right one. where the last 10 games for the Western Conference standings, it's like 8-2, 9-1, 10-0, 7-3, 6-4, 8-4, 8-2. Like you go through the gamut of looking at all of these teams, and that might eventually happen when everybody really gets focused up after All-Star break. Maybe that's something that happens. But like right now, everybody's going 5-5. People are going 4-6. Yeah, you've got a couple of teams like OKC and Phoenix that are going 7-3, 8-2. But most everybody else is 4-6, 5-5, or 6-4. And being able to survive in that stretch where Denver's going 5-5, like they're not losing any ground. And so you got to feel good about Denver's odds of getting to a top 3 seed, of putting themselves into a position where you don't have to feel like you have to win every single game when Jokic comes back. You could even drop some games then. It's not going to be the end of the world. You're just trying to survive. You're trying to get a top 3 seed. You're trying to put yourself into a position where if OKC's 1, you just don't want to be 4 again. You just don't want to be 5. You want to be 2 or 3. And Denver, I think, based off of these standings, has a really good shot of doing that. So we'll see if it happens. We'll see if they can maintain. But the Nuggets, without Jokic, without Murray, without Cam Johnson, without Jonas Valanciunas, they're finding a way. They are surviving and deserve a ton of credit. The coaching staff, and I can't believe I've taken this long to credit the coaching staff, they deserve a ton of credit for imparting this mentality for the Nuggets. They're like, look, if you're not going to have some of those other guys, you just got to find a way to play hard. You got to play with effort. You got to scrap. It's a different style. But Denver's finding it. They're finding out their identity here. And it's just been really cool to see. All right. That's all I have. That's going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends here at Mile High Sports and FanDuel. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to try to do an intermittent show. Denver's not going to, obviously they're not playing tonight, but I'll do another show tomorrow and we can kind of check in and predict on what's going to happen for this road trip. I'm curious to see what the injury report looks like for tomorrow. But then I will, of course, recap both games on Thursday. So we'll be able to do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I believe. Shouldn't be any reason why that can't happen. And we'll go over that stuff and have a good time. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. Thanks for hanging out with me. I will talk to you guys tomorrow.